here's Brannon, an incredible man of God as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah, B-Mac. Listen, what is this? Because I'm going to be pacing probably.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I like this right here. So thank you thank y'all for being here. Is this the first speaker meeting right up here? Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool. The way I speak, is anybody in here spiritual? Because I have a lot of spiritual stuff involved. Does that bother anybody? Talk some spiritual stuff? Okay, good. Because that's part of my story. Okay, it is who I am. But thank y'all for coming. First of all, this is a pretty good crowd, and I'm very grateful for everybody to be here. It all starts right here, right? It all starts in rooms and taking steps to get places, right? Anybody in here have trauma? Jeez Louise, trauma, man, because that's where I think, how about childhood trauma? Yeah, so that's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna spend about probably 40% of what I talk about today inside of the not so good, right? When I dig down in these wormholes and go back to where I was, it's an emotional thing for me. And if it gets emotional for you, I apologize, but I want you to know that because I'm going back there, don't mean we have to stay there, right? Because the rest of the story has got a lot of good productivity. Okay? So back when I was 7 years old, 8 years old. Let me go all the way back. Let me just go all the way back. When I was 2 days old, how many people remember when they were two days old? Yeah, right. I didn't remember it either. Thank God for this one. Because I was born right up here at this hospital. Back then, I think it was called Wilkes General Hospital. I think so. And I was born right out here. And my mother, of course, she was having me. And I had a father, or a man that had the same last name I had. When I was born, he was not there, of course. But he did come 2 days later. And so I was 2 days old. And when he come in, he tried to fight the doctor that delivered me because the doctor was looking at my mother. So that right there, he left in handcuffs, and I never seen him again. So at that point, I'm like, God, here I am, 2 days old, and my dad is gone. How many people in here can relate to not seeing a father? Right. 2 days old. Now, I don't remember this, thank goodness, but you'll find out here later on in the story what that leads to. Okay. So fast forward, live a life of my mom met another man who was a drug dealer. Okay. Matter of fact, back in 1985, he was in the first biggest conspiracy that the federal government had ever been in Wilkes County, North Carolina. It was called the Wilco. And how many of y'all has been in drug treatment? Does anybody remember a story about the cocaine cowboy? Y'all know that story? My family was involved with that. My stepdad, my uncle, my grandmother, and my grandfather. Okay, and there were several others. So that was the first biggest conspiracy that had ever happened in Wilkes County, North Carolina. It was called the Wilco. So what happened was, right up here at this special little place in a little apartment called a little house called F Street, right here in North Wilkesboro. I got to witness at the age of 8 years old the federal government coming to arrest my whole family. Okay, my whole family. My grandmother, my grandfather, my stepdad, and my uncle. So before that, I was living pretty good. We had 43 horses, lived on a horse farm, had vehicles. I mean, it was pretty. We had a lot. They were doing big things, right? A lot of big things, and so when the feds come run through, and of course they confiscated the whole property. They seized it, made us live in this 1-bedroom apartment out here on F Street. And then of course they come back and arrested everybody after they got all the information. So there I was left. I had a lot of stuff growing up until 8 or 9 years old. How many in here, did everybody have pretty good childhood? Pretty good? Anybody? Not really? Maybe? Yeah, so mine was good up until right then. Right? I had, like I said, 4-wheelers. I remember having the nicest shoes, nicest clothes. I remember all this stuff. I didn't know how it was coming, but I had it. And it was all taken away like that. That was traumatizing. I didn't know it was trauma, but it was trauma. I didn't know what trauma was up until the past 10 years, really, to be honest. I didn't know what mental health was up until the past 10 years. All right, so, we're at the age of 8 and 9, and, it's time to reset. I went to a school called Mulberry Elementary. Anybody familiar with Mulberry Elementary? So I went to school with a young man. Y'all may know. Anybody know Jeff Walker? Yeah. So me and Jeff went to school at Mulberry. We was going to school at Mulberry together. Good. Hey, Dustin.
Speaking of Walker.
Speaking of Walker, there he is. That's Jeff Walker. If you don't run. So, ended up going to this small school called Mulberry Elementary. Of course, that's one of the first times that I had actually met Jeff. But along the way there, I had to move from Mulberry to this school called Woodward. Does anybody know about Woodward? Some people may not. Yeah, Jeff does. Michelle. So that was, now we have junior high school, or now we have, what do they call it? Junior? Middle schools. This was a junior high, the only one in Wilkes County. So I went from a typically all white school to a lot of mixture, a lot of biracial people to Woodward. And of course, I played ball with a lot. I like to play ball and stuff. So I imagined myself being okay with most people because I played ball. That wasn't the case. I went straight in there and went rebellious and tried to fight every single person I could fight. Matter of fact, we used to have a place called the YMCA. It was right in front of Woodward. And I got kicked out of the YMCA 3 times for fighting. And I don't think I won any of those fights. Probably should have. But, yeah, I got my butt beat for trying to be rebellious. So, here I was in a new school, living in a 1-bedroom apartment here on F Street, and I'm fighting all the time. Has anybody in here ever been in a fight? I mean, I'm in 6th, 7th grade fighting, right? Like, just thinking, this is what I'm supposed to do. So, there's some more trauma added on, okay? You couple all that with, your whole family leaving and going to federal prison, right? Big conspiracy, big bust, don't know what's happening. You go from having 4-wheelers, cars, horses, a nice life to nothing. To absolutely nothing. It was pretty hard. That was one of the times in my life that I was turning to fear, and fear was bringing out anger. right? That's probably the root, right? And I was very angry in life. I wouldn't consider myself a bad kid, but I was very angry. Very angry. So, my mom met another man. And she ended up marrying this guy. His name is Marty. He's a great guy. Great guy. A lot of people in here know him. He's a great guy. And he got us back in a good place. Okay? He got us back in a good place. I had a home, because this little one-bedroom apartment here on F Street, it was shaky. Like, I didn't know. We didn't know from day to day, because, my mom worked at this little place called Ithaca. Anybody? Shady worked there at Ithaca. He knows what Ithaca is. So things were shaky. When she met this guy here, he took me under his wing and took our family and got us a home. We was in a trailer park, but that was fine, right? Does everybody know what a trailer park is? Yeah. So we was in this trailer park, and eventually got us worked out in the trailer park. And he bought a home in Millers Creek. And I started my high school years at a high school called West Wilkes. West Wilkes. Anybody go to West in here?
I did.
You did? Okay, I see you back there. Good to be a black hole. I hear you, eaglet. So these high school years actually turned out fairly good. Of course, at this time, I was involved in all the sports. I was involved with a lot of girls, and had a good foundation for a good thing. I set a good foundation for a good thing. I started building things based on, I wasn't living in that childhood trauma that I was telling you guys earlier about. I started living and filling out who I was, right? I was a guy that loved sports. I love girls. But I love sports just as much. And, I made good grades. Matter of fact, I was probably the one in our group in high school that would push people to get up and go to school. Wrecked my car because of him getting up late. A couple of times. But I was that guy. Right? I was the guy that I wanted to do my schoolwork. I wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be done correctly. I wanted to be at school 15 minutes early. I wore khakis and button-up shirts, and they had to be ironed. And that's who I was, right? I wasn't a prep. But that's what I liked, right? And I stayed that way, and it was great, and it was good. And then we started going out and started, I guess around my junior year, we started having little parties in high school. Did y'all have them? Little bitty parties in high school, right? Started drinking. No drugs, just drinking. And we loved that. We had a good time doing that, right? And then it turned to using a little bit of drugs, right? So by my senior year, I was wearing cut-off jeans and flip-flops. And I wasn't the same. Does that make sense? I know the attire may not mean a lot, but a lot of times the way you put yourself together is the way you are, right? I felt very, very tight, in a very good place. I was prosperous in high school. I was voted most popular. Y'all have superlatives in high school? I was most popular. Unbelievable, right? Most popular. I was captain of the JV basketball team. A lot of stuff going on in this time of my life, and I'm thinking I'm on top of the world. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to college. I'm going to be something. That didn't work out. That didn't work out. The drinking, I enjoyed it so much. I wanted to do that more than I wanted to go to college. I knew I had to work because I had to have money. My mama wouldn't give me a whole lot of money to drink. But I went to work. Instead of going to college, I went to work. A place called New York Carpet World. That was my first job. And I sold carpet. At 19 years old, my first year selling carpet, I made about $60,000. Dang. This is back in 1995. And the manager of the store was a guy from New York who had the hookup on a drug called cocaine. I loved that shit. I went crazy. I was, you know how it is. Anybody know how that is? Am I speaking to a deaf ears? No, I'm sure I'm not. I spent I made $60,000 that year, and didn't have a single thing to show for it. Nothing. Zero. I spent every penny I had on cocaine. I had a car that my mom had bought. I had a car at that time. But I spent every penny on it that year. Well, I knew that, and I said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to straighten up. So I decided to go to work on the road for a place called Mathis Electric. God dang, boy, I thought I was doing good. Getting away from Wilkes County. I wanted to be away from Wilkes County. I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do things. I had in my mindset. I'd seen people that was doing good that I went to school with at the time, and I wanted to do good. So I wanted to go on the road, save all my money, go out on the road, save my money when I come back, stay home for a couple of days, go back on the road, just keep saving money. Didn't happen. Let me tell you what I've done. This is just one story. Y'all mind if I share a story? So, while I was on the road, I got introduced to another drug, but it's the same kind of drug. It's called crack. Crack cocaine. And I started getting involved with crack, and I thought that I had a cocaine problem. Woo! I was going to a place called San Antonio, Texas, working on the road, and I stopped at a place called Jackson, Mississippi. And at this time, I was working for a guy named Albert Brannon Electric. Albert is the scariest person I've ever met. When you look at him, you think, damn, he's getting ready to kill me. He's a very scary individual, right? And so I'm the crew lead. I'm the boss. And he hands me $2,500. And he says, okay, I need you to go to San Antonio. I need you to do a reset. And he sends a guy with me. So on the way down there, this guy that's with me, we're both known to party together. And I said, I feel like stopping and finding some dope. He says, okay, you're the man. Do it. So we stopped in Jackson, Mississippi. We stopped in the store. First person I seen, I just went right up to him. Hey, you good? No, but I can help you. You the law? First thing I always ask out there. You the law? Ooh, I'm not the law. So guess what happens? I spent $2,500. $2,500. I'm sitting here in Jackson, Mississippi, spent $2,500, and I don't have no money. We ain't even to the job yet. So I wasn't worried about that. I wanted some more dope. So I traded Albert Brown's car for dope. Not good. Wasn't good. Has anybody ever done that? I knew your hand would go up, Shady. It's funny how we do those things. We trade. We have this, you know, we've got money, and then all of a sudden we have nothing. So then we go to doing whatever we do to get to feel us, right? And that's what I was doing. I was just feeling that high, and, you know. And long story short, that car ended up burning to the ground. I got it back. But trust me, y'all don't want to know how I done that. It was a dangerous move, but I did it. Fast forward 17 years. I never got off crack in 17 years. When I started smoking crack, I smoked crack for 17 years. It got so bad and so devastating that I started, I was homeless. I ended up being homeless. I had to move into a tent. To whom another individual in here lived with me in. Mr. Walker lived in the same tent I lived in. Sounded bad, right? I remember him taking a radio. We was on the junkyard, and he took a radiator out of a van just so we could get $25 on the dope. However, it wasn't crack at this time. I found a new drug. Thank you. We would have said, I want a new drug. Right? One that won't make you sick. Yeah. Found a new drug. Anybody familiar with methamphetamines? Methamphetamines. And this was not the meth that I don't think it's the same kind of meth that's going around here today. But I learned how to do this to make this drug, manufacture it. This drug called shake and bake. Some people don't know about it, right? But anyway, I started shaking baking. You know, I thought things was going to get good because I could make the drug that got me high. And I could also sell it. And I would go to Walgreens every 2 weeks and buy Sudafed, right? And I used my license to buy boxes, to make my dope, to get high, and I was living good. Things had turned around again, right? I'm doing good. I went from this tent to a little one-man tent to a 3-bedroom vacation lodge tent. Yeah. And then from that tent, I think the law had been there several times at that tent. At this time, I know Jeff was there a couple of times. Then Jeff had to go. He made a visit to what they call prison. After Jeff went on to prison, I said, well, you know, I think I can go ahead and keep doing what I'm doing and do better. I'm not going to prison. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to get caught. Right? I'm not going to get caught. And I didn't. But anyway, I started selling a lot more dope. I started getting more people get me boxes. I think they call it smurfing. I had Smurfs, people getting me boxes of Sudafed, and I was making dope. And then I got a 2-bedroom apartment right up here at the top of Roller Coaster. Anybody know Roller Coaster Hill? 10th Street. So I ended up getting that 2-bedroom apartment. Had a car, had phone, and I was doing good. When I smoked crack, I was broke all the time, right? When I made meth, I had money and dope and girls. I had it. I was king of the world, right? Things was really looking good for me. I'd also heard through people talking that I was the best I'd ever done. That was a lie. That was a lie. I about fought people ever saying stuff like that. So I had the law, the ATF, the SBI, and the Wilkes County, what they called the, I can't remember what they called them. It was narcotic team. I can't remember. Danny Jennings. Craig Dancy. I don't know if anybody's ever heard them names before. But anyway, they all come to this apartment that I was staying at with. And of course they didn't find nothing, but they told me something. They said, we're getting ready to cut your lifeline. We know what you're doing. We're getting ready to cut your lifeline. What you're doing, you're killing people. You're harming people's families. You're ruining marriages. You're doing all. They told me all this stuff, and I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man. I ain't doing nothing. I've seen stuff like what y'all talking about on video, but I wouldn't do it. I allowed them to lie as much as I could because I didn't think I would ever get caught and go to prison. Right? I think it's a moment now that's right here's the turning point in my story. Like we've heard a lot of up and downs, right? 2 days old, my dad comes in, beats up the damn man that delivered me. 8 years old, the feds come got my whole family. The biggest bust at that point in time ever in North Carolina, right? And then I went to high school and went up, got good, and then I started selling carpet, and I was really up. And then I got introduced to cocaine, and for 17 years I went straight down. And then I started to climb again with another drug. And the police is involved now. And they told me they were going to cut my lifeline, and they did. They cut my lifeline. I could not buy a box of Sudafed. I couldn't get nobody to talk to me. I called people. I had nowhere to go. I lived in a tent before this, and they put me back to homelessness. I couldn't even set a tent up nowhere. I didn't have a place to set a tent up. There wasn't no tent cities back then. There wasn't no Wilkes recoveries back then. There was nothing. I was beat. They cut my lifeline. Cut my lifeline so bad. My mom, if I stepped foot on my mama's property, because she knew what I was doing, if I stepped foot on her property, they called law. Because I stole and lied and cheated, you know, what we do, right? And when this lifeline hit me, I got to the lowest point in my time, the very lowest point. I know we've all had some low points, but at this point, I had nothing. I didn't even have no food. There was very few food pantries, so I remember crawling over the dumpster at McDonald's. Exactly where the dumpster's sitting now. Well, they remodeled, but it was right there in the corner. And diving in there and eating a cheeseburger that was so hard, it almost broke my teeth, but I ate every damn bit of it. I was starving. Nobody feeding me. Then I went, Food Line was where Big Lots is. So then I went to that dumpster and found some bread. And most of it was mold. You know what I done? I took the mold off and ate the bread and prayed to God I found a pack of jelly or something. Homeless, eating out of dumpsters. Family disowned me. Has anybody in here been disowned? I couldn't take it no more. The pain, the humiliation, everything had just got me. I let myself get there. And then, the best thing ever happened in my life. The very best thing. No, I didn't win $1 million. My family didn't come to my rescue. The federal government of the United States come and arrested me. In what is now the largest federal bust ever in North Carolina. Do you remember what the first one was? My family. my uncle, my stepdad, and my grandmother, and my grandpa, and some others. Jeff Walker's uncle was involved in that. Now, I went to the same federal prison that my uncle and stepdad went to. The same identical prison. I went there. And that's when I realized, sitting in that cell, I was in the holding that we'd done process. I'd done like 2 years in county. Right, 2 years in county. That wasn't, I was so mixed up at that time that I barely remember it. You know what I mean? You're talking 17 years. And on July 9th, 2013, I had to cold turkey everything. I was dipping 2 cans of dip a day. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, meth, coke, drinking, everything. And on July 9th, that was the last time I used drugs. Okay? For 2 years in county jail, I thought I was going to die. Right? They didn't have naltrexone. They didn't have nothing. It was, there you go. You did it, live with it. So I was inside this jail cell, or this holding cell, waiting to get called back. This was sort of like processing. Feds do it different than state. But I was waiting to go back to, or go get on the yard, and you had to go tell them if you was a gang member, all this stuff. And I was scared. I was scared because I was in there with some gang members. Right? I seen Bloods, I seen Crips, I seen MS-13, Serranos, Pisces, blah, 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 ABs. I seen it all right there, and I was like, oh my God, I'm from Wilkes County. Here I am at a place called, at this time, the first time it was called USP Atlanta. Just the name was frightening. I was alone. I didn't have family. I didn't have nothing. I had to turn somewhere. So I turned to God. I turned to God. I said, God, I don't know who in the hell you are. I've not got a clue. All I know is that you're the only thing I could talk to. You're the only thing, because I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know. I didn't know did. I didn't know nothing. And I said, if you'll get me through this, if you'll give me some peace, because I was in chaos. If you'll give me some peace, give me something to where I can make it through these 7 years. 7 years. At the time I had 5 left when all this was happening. If you'll get me through this 5 years of prison. I'm scared. I thought I was tough, but I wasn't. I didn't want no smoke from nobody. I wanted to just do it and get back. So he didn't answer that prayer real quick. I didn't get peace real quick. I had to walk the yard scared, right? And I'll never forget, there was a guy that come up to me, and he said, hey, man. And I just kept trying. He just kept trying to get my attention. He said, hey, man. And I said, yeah, what's up? I don't want no problem. And this guy was tatted from head to toe. Tatted. He was like, look, bro. He was like, I see you walking all the time. He was like, and I see you talking. He said, you crazy or something? And I said, no, man. I said, well, I feel like it. I said, but I'm talking to God. And he said, can I walk with you? And he told me this story as we was walking, and I'll never forget it. This guy was actually an Egyptian. Okay? And this story sort of changed, the reason I want to tell it is because it sort of changed my life. And we were walking and talking, and he said, what you in for. First thing they asked, what you in for? Of course, I told him, you know, he wanted to make sure that I didn't have bad charges on me and all that stuff. And he was in there for murder. For murder. And he said he was walking, or actually he was selling drugs, and he pulled into a grocery store. And he was going to sell some, his drug of choice was heroin, and he was selling some heroin at this grocery store. And he said that they were, the guys got out, and what was going to happen, they were going to rob him, so they pulled guns on him. And he had a gun. And so he just ducked down in his seat and went, pow, 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 and just shot off him. The guy scattered, of course. So, you know, his windshield's cracked and everything. Well, he was like, I better get out here and go. Well, he looks across the parking lot, and there's a girl laying there dead. He ever pop, 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 went straight into her. And I'm like, I thought I had it bad, right? You know. And this guy had so much peace. I'm telling you, so much peace about him. He said, I said, well, I didn't know what to say. I mean, what do you say to that? And I said, man, I was thinking he got life, right? And we got to talking and everything. He said, man, you know, I didn't want to kill that girl, you know, it was an accident. You know, he said, here I am, walking around, you know, and I'm praising God, and I'm thankful for life, and I said, what turned you, you know, because most of us get what they call jailhouse religion, right? This guy had something about him that was really, really nice, really spiritual, right? And he said, well, he said that the lady he shot, the girl he shot, her father was a preacher. And he said that he come to visit him. He spent 3 years in county jail in Ohio, waiting on trial. And he said he come to see him every week and prayed with him. And he said that he still visit him. And he showed him love and mercy and compassion. And I knew then, I said, that's how we got to live. That's how I got to live my life. I need to have mercy, compassion. I need to forgive everybody that told on me. I need to forgive everything. I need to forgive myself. I need to forgive me for what I've done. Because that was haunting me, right? How can I have peace without forgiveness? And so after me and him, here's what's crazy. I was on a yard about 12. I remember seeing everybody every day. I never seen him again. I looked for him. I never seen that guy again. Never seen him. I had seen him before then. I never seen him. So now, I've figured it out. This part. When I'm walking and I'm talking and I'm doing things and I'm planning things while I'm in prison, I have freedom because I have love and I have mercy and I have compassion. So that carried me all the way through. I found what I prayed for. Through this guy. So when I got out of prison, I went to a halfway house called Dismas Charities in Greensboro. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a church goer, right? I'm not that type guy. I'm not that. But I knew I needed something. Because I didn't want to go back. So now we're in the recovery part of things, right? Now we're in like, okay, you went through all that you went through. You've been homeless. You didn't have no food. You didn't have no cars. You didn't have none of this stuff. So now, while I was in prison, I worked at a place called commissary. Does anybody know what commissary is? This was after I had this conversation with this guy. I worked at commissary. It's the best paying job in prison. The best paying. The best hustle. When I got out of prison, I had $5,000 saved up. Now that's not a lot. It wasn't to me. I went to prison with nothing. No food, no car, no home, no cell phone, no nothing. And I had $5,000 coming out of prison. And this is after I sent $3,000 home to buy a little white car, a little white Toyota Matrix. So I actually had saved up about $8,000. So I get to Dismissed Charities, and I'm like, okay, I know I need to be in a solid place. I need to have something solid. So I asked my mother, who had started coming to see me again, right? My stepdad, they started coming to see me. They wasn't calling the law. They was coming to see me. Traveling hundreds of miles to come see Brannon. I'm telling you, like 200 miles. It was a long ways. At this time, I was in a place called Pennington Gap, Virginia. They come see me. And so I asked them if I could stay with them, create my home plan. And they let me. They let me come home. And I was home, and I was in an ankle monitor. Anybody know what ankle monitor is? Yeah, I had to wear that. And so I'm in this Dismissed Charities. You had to put this move in, okay? You had to put move, like you had to go to the computer and say, I'm going home this weekend for weekend pass, and I'm going to church. You had to tell them where you was going. You had to be, and the feds don't play. You had to go exactly where you went. So I ended up meeting this. I met this girl. I'd known this girl for a while. One of my good friends. She wrote me in prison. She had a friend that was going to a church, and they invited me to go to a speaker meeting. Okay, and so I went to this speaker. It was not, of course, like this, but it was a guy that done. It was a guy that done. You're fine. It was a guy that done sort of evangelism, right? His name was Ron Campbell. You know Ron? So Ron Campbell. I walked into this church. It's not like most churches. These people get down. Tell me, praise and worship is ridiculous in this church. And so we get in there. It's on a Saturday morning, like at 10 o'clock too. It's just odd. Matter of fact, my halfway house questioned me about going there. Like, man, you really ain't going to church on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, no, for real, man. Like, you got me. You got the monitor. So I go in there, and there's this guy named Ron Campbell. I walk in there, and I'm standing beside this girl. I'd never stepped foot in this church. And I'm standing there, and I'm like this, and nervous. I mean, I hate like falling to sweat. Like, oh, God, I'm in a church. And I was happy about being there, but I was nervous. The guy looked straight at me. He talked, they introduced him, and he comes straight to me. I said, oh, don't do this. He put his hand on me. He said, what's your name? And I told him what my name was. I said, my name's Brannon. He said, what do you do? And I was building houses at this time. He says, what God's doing in your life right now is called a recreative season. He said, you have lived out how you felt because of all the things in your childhood. This guy had never seen me. He said, you lived out how you felt because that's how you thought you were supposed to be. You thought you went to federal prison. You thought you was going to be in federal prison. And so you in federal prison. All right? Then he says, he tells me all these wonderful things. He says, but God's doing something in you today. He said, let me tell you what you're going to do. God says you're going to be a man that's filled with mercy, compassion, and love. He says, and God's going to use you. He said, God's going to take you and He's going to position you in a place to where you can help the sick, help the suffering, help the homeless, help the people in recovery, He said, God's going to use you. This is 2019. I heard about Wilkes Recovery Revolution, but I knew I seen Jeff and Devin on there, but I wasn't working for them. You know, I didn't know what was headed, right? God said that I'm going to be a man that helps people and that I can share my story to get through to somebody that somebody may need to hear it, and God's going to use me to do that. I put it down. I couldn't hardly understand the guy. He's from South Africa. I didn't really hear him at that time, so they printed out this transcript and put it in a folder and handed it to me. I never looked at it again. Fast forward. 2 years later, I'm starting to go around churches, and I'm not preaching, but I'm sharing my testimony. And I had a heart doc. I had to do something with a heart doctor. I seen Jeff Walker coming out of West Park, and he'd already come see me coming out of prison. And brought me a gift card and everything. I mean, welcomed me home and told me what he was doing. And he come up and I asked him if I could use R3 to have a spiritual night, Friday night spiritual night. And he said, yeah. He said, sure. And so I started coming in spiritual night, and he allowed me to use that space. I brought pizza every Friday night, and we had a good time. And then finally Jeff said, would you like to come to work for me and be a peer supporter? And so I took the job automatically. And it wasn't long after that, I walked in Jeff's office, and he had a stack of damn papers applications in his office. I said, wow. I said, you need some help with that, man? And he said, man, I got all kinds of stuff going on. I got this program. I was like, let me help. Let me do something. So he started letting me make some applications. That's when I got with Michelle, is he was allowing me to do some applications, do some interviews. And I work at UPS as well. I left that part out, but I wanted to share this part because this is pretty cool. So I work at UPS. I still work at UPS. And their drivers make $125,000 a year. That's pretty good, right? So right after I talked to Jeff about doing and starting to help with phases, they asked me, UPS said, do you want to become a full-time driver? And I said, holy shit. Do I? That's $125,000. So I called Jeff. I'm like, Jeff, I know this is crazy, but I'm thinking about taking this job. He said, pray about it, man. Because he drove for UPS. He was a driver for UPS. He said, pray about it. He said, the money's good. He said, but I'm telling you, you're in a brown truck with brown packages. He said, pray about it. So I went to church that next Sunday, and I'm going to church a little bit here with this girl, and I go in there and I'm thinking God's going to give me the answer. I'm going to get the answer I need right here, whether or not to go on to work for UPS and make $125,000 a year or stay where I'm at. I didn't get the answer from God. He didn't say nothing. He was just real still. And I'm riding home, and this girl I was seeing had a little girl. This is 4 years later, guys. It's about 4 years later. I'm saying, my girlfriend looked at me and she said, what you gonna do? I said, I guess I'm gonna work for UPS. I said, that's good money. I can't pass that up. And this little girl who was at 12 at this time, she said, what about that man that couldn't talk? I said, what? I said, Mike, this is serious. This is serious stuff. What? I said, what? I said, this is a big decision. I said, I love Wilkes Recovery. I love Jeff Walker. I said, this is serious. I don't want to just make a bad decision. I'm blinded, right? Like I'm just confused. And I felt confusion coming back. And she says, no, you remember. He said that you was going to help people. He said, you're going to help people. And I said, what are you talking about? She said that the guy, he was from South Africa. He put his hands on your head. I didn't remember it. So I went, and then I did. And I went straight home and I pulled out that envelope that was buried under Paul books. I pulled it out and I looked at it and I read that thing and I cried. I called Jeff Walker. I said, God dang it. I'm staying here. Staying right here. I ain't going nowhere. I don't care if you pay me $7 an hour. I'd throw that in there. So, I'm here now. Okay, I know it's getting long. I've been long-winded about it, but I'm here now. Now let me share something with you, and this is just truth. July 9th, 2013, I didn't have nothing. I didn't have my family. I didn't have phone. Y'all know I've told you everything I didn't have. Now let me tell you what being in recovery, working for Wilkes Recovery, it took hard work to get here. But let me tell you what the outcome is now. First of all, I didn't have children. Okay? Now I'm 47 years old. Or, well, not hell, I'm 49. I had my first child when I was 47 years old. Okay? I'm married to a wonderful, wonderful girl. And don't judge me, but she's a little younger than me. But she got an old soul. I have 2 children. 2 kids, not just one. I have 2 kids. I'm a homeowner. That means I have a mortgage. I have vehicles. And I am absolutely fulfilling the prophecy that was laid on me because I get to see people come through to the other side. I get to witness every day in recovery what good has come. Right? When you look at things and you look back through your life and you say, okay, you know what? I remember when it was bad. But now I can see when it's good. And being able to stand right here in front of y'all and talk and tell a story is pretty damn good. It's pretty good to be able to share this. You know, it may not relate to not anybody in here, but I guarantee there's one thing we all relate to, and that is we've had some stuff in our life, right? So what I hope is that you see when you see myself, when you see Walker, when you see Michelle, when you see everybody around here walking, you need to say, I can do that. Do you believe it though? Because it don't feel like you can do it at first, but you can. Every single person in here has got a story to tell. Not identical to mine. May not even be very close. But we all relate in one way. We was here and now we're here. Or we're here and we're heading here. Right? We're here and we're heading here. Listen, I could go on and on. I really could, but this is it. I'm going to close with this right here. Every time in life you feel like you're getting ready to hit a roadblock, what's the first thing you do? Let's say you're driving down the road and you see a roadblock. What do? Put the brakes on. Why?
You don't hit it.
So you don't hit it. I live my life like that. I live my life like that. Just because I'm now almost, July 9th is going to be 11 solid years, 100% clean of everything. Not even vaping. Nothing. 0. 100% clean. Very proud of that. 11 years. But I still, thank you. But I still see roadblocks. So I know how to hit the brakes. And if my brakes ain't working, what do? I turn to somebody that I can talk to. Right? Know your resources. That's how you get through it. That's how you get through this. Know your resources. Know your people. If they're not walking like you, they shouldn't be walking with you. Is that truth? If they're not walking like you, you need to remove it. I'm telling you. Okay? That's how we do it. I've got nothing else. I got nothing else. Thank y'all so much for coming out tonight or today.